Hello and welcome to Voices of Parenting podcast. I am so glad you're here. My name is Mussi Diskin. I am an advanced nurtured heart approach trainer. I am a parenting coach. I am also an inner wealth coach, which means that I help people rediscover and connect to the people that they truly were all along, but may have gotten forgotten along the way. So to find out more about me and what I offer, you can check out mussidiskin.com, contact me through there, respond to this podcast, find me on social media. I would love to connect and I would love to hear your feedback. To sponsor a Voices of Parenting podcast episode, please reach out to energizinghearts@gmail.com. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. All right, Bryan, this was coming for a while, this episode in my head anyways, even though I didn't really ask you, but you have been one of these nurtured heart warriors that have been role modeling to the community what a nurtured heart life could look like, all from your very own real life experience and day-to-day application, which is so profound. Because as I understand, your day job is not nurtured heart training. So I would love for my audience to get to know you a little bit and hear your story and how you are, who you are, and what your secrets are. So how about just introduce yourself to everybody? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and your family, whatever details feel relevant.
Okay.
And I'd love to go back in time to the beginning, how you got into all of this.
My introduction to Nurtured Heart was a little bit unconventional. I started work as an aide for a special education classroom. This is back in 2015, and there's a certain subset of special education called emotional disturbance. And if you are not familiar, which I was not at the time, I was not familiar with emotional disturbance, but it is a culture shock. There were kids throwing chairs. I got spit on my very first day, and it was an experience. It was a Nurtured Heart classroom. We were just at the end of the school year, and it was just chaos all around. So I started working with my teacher, the teacher for the classroom. His name was Niels Wright, and he was an advanced Nurtured Heart trainer. So that was something I was talking about just the other day with Mussi, is that I always refer to that kind of playfully as my Nurtured Heart boot camp experience, wherein I got to see Nurtured Heart in action. I got to kind of put my own understanding of it to the test. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, and it was overall a really good experience. My very first day, I think I showed up around 10 o'clock in the morning, and by about 1 o'clock, I said, I can't do this anymore. And I started thinking about ways of going back to my old job or finding something else, because in my mind, I can't do this. This is too much. And then dismissal came around. That was about 2 o'clock, 2:30. And back in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna, politely break the news after the kids leave to the admin that I'm no longer interested in the position. And then the teacher sat all the kids down, and I think all the adults sat down around they had a little circle, and we did what was called a greatness circle. So all the kids sat around and all did recognitions of things that they were grateful for. And the first kid went, and then the second, and then the third, and I think it's about the fourth or fifth kid actually gave me a recognition. So appreciative they called me Mr. Bryan. So appreciative for Mr. Bryan for showing up today and dealing with all his kids and so on and so forth. And in that moment, I still remember I went from can't do this job to I can't not do this job. So that was my very first real like nurtured heart experience, came from this little 9-year-old boy who just he showed me what he showed me the approach in action, basically. And so the rest is kind of all rest is history, as they say.
So what was the rest? I mean, did you go through a formal training, or was it all just hands-on modeling from the other teachers? I mean, what did you even think was going on in the beginning?
In the very beginning, it was really hard to tell what was going on because my son was also in a special education classroom for autism and just general those kinds of disabilities. So I had been to his classroom before, so I had seen what I thought was a typical special education classroom. Maybe it was, but it was far different. So there seemed to be a lack of structure or discipline to the classroom. You tell a kid to stop, get back in their seat, and you expect a kid to go, "Oh, sorry, teacher," and that's usually the worst that you see in most classrooms. But of course, there's none of it. You tell the kid to do something, and they would do the exact opposite. They would give you the middle finger, or you know, whatever else. So I was pretty mystified as far as what the process was. Um, and then actually, to kind of back up a little bit further, my very first day, I was with a different teacher who was kind of she was she was done with with her teaching career at that time. I didn't know it yet, but that was in I want to say that was mid May or so, and she was there up until like the very end of the school year. So I didn't get a whole lot of guidance back then as far as what was actually going on. But once I started working with Niels, he was the one who actually started coming up to me, and he would kind of give me little pointers here and there as far as what to do. Like I remember one time I was on the playground just watching a bunch of kids interact, and I was doing it like most adults do from a distance. And he walked up to me and said, "Hey, just a hint. This is at that point I'd already seen a lot of intense behaviors." He said, "Just to clue you in," he goes, "This is the time when you want to go to the kids who are in program doing what they're supposed to be doing. You want to give them your attention and your proximity," is what he specifically told me. I remember that word, proximity. And I went, "Oh." I didn't even realize that I was not, really, I was doing the adult thing, which was watching the kids, but I wasn't engaged to that level. So he, slowly but surely kind of started training me. And I think it was by and large, kind of like you said, it was less formal training. I mean, he covered the stands and the reset and everything else. But by and large, it was him modeling the approach for me. I would actually get to see him work interventions with kids who were about to escalate, and there were those times when there was nothing you could do. The kid was just too far gone already. Maybe they'd had a really bad interaction with their parents that morning. And when I say bad, I mean, catastrophic and unimaginable. So the kid already walked in class, and so there's, reset everything else, uh, basically just holding space and safety for that kid and them. But there were other times when he would come along and he would just, he would implement the reset and get the kid back on track. Or the kid would come up and try and power struggle with him. "Oh, I want this pencil." And well, yeah, you can, sure, you you're allowed to want to have this pencil but here's the pencil. You can use this pencil, or you can have no pencil. But those types of interventions. I did attend an 8-hour training. I was fortunate enough to have that with Howard Glasser. But other than that, it was just all modeling.
Yeah. What was there judgment or questions in your mind? Like, this is crazy, this is not gonna work, what's going on? They're not doing anything. And then when did that turn around? Like, when were you bought in? Like, what made, so I hear that little boy made you stay. That I get.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, but at what point did you get on board with what all these other adults were doing?
Um, that's a really good question. He'd already been in the field for about 9 or 10 years. So his ability to connect with a kid and just, okay, here's what he needs, or he's going to find out what that kid needs. His ability to turn that kid around was split second. I mentioned other times when it didn't work, but I saw him time after time after time get that kid right back on track. So my initial skepticism kind of phase was kind of short-lived, because I saw that it was working. Now there are some other aspects of the approach that took me a lot longer. We were, how do I say this? The school that we were working for at the time, the program that they offered, they were basically paid by the district, and so basically their business model was based around behavior transformation, or behavior change, I should say, or what's the term? Behavior modification is that was basically what they were selling. That was their business model. And we always say, nurtured heart is not behavior modification. So we were operating this kind of in that bubble of, okay, we're doing the behavior tracking, the data. We're working these interventions so that we can report back to this child's home district and say, yes, they are making behavioral progress, so that we could continue to keep the lights on. So there was some, it was difficult from that perspective, because I had a lot of my own sort of hangups with how I was raised, and I believe that behavior modification was important. But we did see, we still saw, we were able to work well enough in that system to actually enact several transformations, which was, pretty magical. But over time, and I think mainly through being patient with myself, I've come to grips with, no, we don't need to win every single battle as parents. We don't need to necessarily win. We're here for the long term, and everything else in between, we can usually make up for.
Mm. Well, that's beautiful. Um, well, I'd love to hear maybe one or two of those transformations, if you can share, um, without identifying information, obviously, but what kind of things did you see, and what changed, and why do you think that happened? Or what do you think made that change?
I have two stories in in mind, and I think I'm going to go with one in particular, because he was the guy I worked with most often. Um, his transformation was really long and drawn out, and when I say transformation, he was already such a sweet kid. He loved coming to school. He had a smile on his face every single day. He knew all of our names. So he wasn't a kid where you had the daily. Well, we had some daily battles with him, but it wasn't the minute by minute oppositional battles that we had with some of those kids. That being said, we still had a kind of an uphill battle because he would have anxiety and he would have these kinds of fears and worries, and he would revert back to, oh, what did I do last time, like any kid does, which was to yell and scream and throw and fight. So we got to a point to where it was, every other day was when he would really act out, and we would need to take action to keep him safe. And over that period of time, there was one day in particular, and this was a kid that his parents, the therapist, and then all of this, the whole team of adults for this kid said, at the first sign of trouble, we need to enact physical restraint. And so we were seeing less of those instances where we needed to have that happen. And then there was one day where I could kind of see it start up again. And I remember thinking to myself, like, no, not again. I don't want to have to put my hands on this kid. And I forget how he would wind up on the floor. That was kind of where it would all start. And he got himself on the floor and he was getting ready to kick me. And in my head, I'm like, I don't want to have to do this again. No more. So I had this feeling of letting go of everything. And you're told that when you're dealing with a kid like this, like, eye contact is really bad. But I got in his face and I made eye contact, which is a really bad idea. I could have got myself seriously hurt. But in that moment, I just trusted myself. I got right in his face, looked him right in the eyes. I said his name and I said, "You are safe." And the kid just completely melted, looked up at me, and I asked him, "Do you want to go outside?" He said, "Yes, Mr. Bryant." So he took my hand and we walked outside, walked around for a few minutes, and that was it. That was the very last time we even got close to that level of intensity. So you were going to have to do something physical to stop him. So part of that was just me trusting myself in the moment. And then the other big part of that was just I had built that year-long relationship with that kid to where I was able to break through in that way. So I always tell that story with that caveat that, if you don't know the kid, don't try that. But in this instance, I was able to let go and connect with the kid.
So I want to break that down a little bit, because that moment of transformation is huge. I mean, you being able to get that close and say, "You are safe." I can just feel it in my body and my heart. Like that sense of it's like such relief. And you saw it because it was lasting, right? That was the big change to that. But you said that there's progress already, and I'm curious about and you said you've had a relationship with him over the whole year. What was building that relationship looking like? Because I can imagine the moments when he's kicking, biting, screaming, and you're holding him down and getting physical with him. Where's the investment? And how did those moments not destroy that? What did that look like?
That was always an interesting part of the job. I think we had always had that fear in the back of our minds that, oh, this kid's going to come to school tomorrow and they're not going to trust me, and they're not going to, I've just destroyed the relationship. That was the thought in all of our minds. And what we found was, with this kid and almost all of the kids in particular, they had a sense of, they understood without us even having to say a word. I needed someone else to keep me safe. I completely lost control of my body, and I needed an adult to help keep me safe.
Well, to bring in nurtured, the three stands of nurtured heart, it sounds like there was a real stand one, even within those moments. And talking about proximity, there's a lot of proximity in holding a kid down. But energetically, there was such a sense of trust and love behind that we're just getting through this moment. That's it. This is not you. This is not it. This is not us. Like, we're just holding out so we can get back to the game. And I'd love to hear, because my guess is that in those moments, right, that's not where you built the relationship. How did you build the relationship? Where did you invest? Like, how did you reach him?
With this particular kid, that part of the job was easy. He was such a sweet kid, and as much as I could, I showed up for those moments where he was, he almost on his own. I'll give this kid credit. He was doing the stand two part of the equation. He loved people. He loved being there at the school. Looking back, I want to say, oh yeah, I was really there to show up for the positive moments when he was not being aggressive and when he was not. And I give myself credit. I did some of that, but this kid, I swear, he did 99% of that on his own.
Mm.
And yeah, I think that was pretty much all him building that relationship.
Yeah. Well, I feel like what I'm taking away so much from the whole scenario that I'm building in my mind, anyways, from hearing you talk, is and is that in this space, in this room that you guys created together for these kids, with all this intensity going on, it was like this safe space of it, like, all that's not going to matter. And you're transactionally dealing with the intensity and handling the physical stuff that you need to handle. But you guys had to have so much inner, like, energy stuff going on to really believe in these kids so that it was real. Because how easily could that have all turned punitive? And the fear that, like, these behaviors are going to escalate more, and wanting to come down hard and show them that this can't happen again. And you guys weren't doing that. And I think that that ability to not have to, for the kid to feel respected and accepted as is, with all the intensity and all the, moments of meltdown or whatever, for that all to be okay, like, that could open up a doorway for them to want to try to harness themselves a bit, to not have that meltdown every day, but every other day, to have more of those good times, because it was okay for them to have the bad times. It was like, yeah, I'll hold you down, I'll keep you safe, but it's all cool. Like, we'll get through this. That energy is so safe and so hard. And so I just recognize you and the other staff for creating a space like that where kids could heal in that way. And it is them. It is their choice. It is their transformation. But you didn't get in the way of that. You didn't stop that by trying to control it and make it happen. You let them have their own transformation, which is so beautiful. Thank you for giving us your beautiful time and experience and heart. You're like always this energy, I don't know, just this like real trust in humanity and people and nurtured heart. And you're such a you serve the community with so much humility and kindness. And I want to tell everybody that Bryan is on Facebook. Bryan, can you tell people how they can follow you or reach you or find you if they wanna if they'd want to? Is that an option?
I don't have any kind of social media platform. You're, everyone's welcome to look me up and message me. But I don't have a page or anything like that to really follow.
Well, you exist on Facebook, right? They can find you on
Yeah.
Facebook. They can find you. You can find him in the Nurtured Heart Facebook page group,
Mhm.
which is very active, partially or mainly because of you, in many ways. Yeah, thank you for sharing your story and your inspiration. You are an inspiration, and it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Hey, wait, don't go yet. Take a minute to find the beautiful quality that you have, that you appreciate about yourself.